closed meeting, hush, turn it over to Jim. We are very honored to have you here this evening and show us kaleidoscopes, although I do see quite a few other things over here also.
We're going to have fun.
Super! The floor is yours, Jim.
Thank you, Linda. Ed's seen this, I think this is the 4th time now, so you can probably do this himself. Anyway, as much as anything, we're going to see kaleidoscopes tonight, but the things that I turn with are going to be used for all kinds of other things. So I like jigs that work for different things. I don't spend $100 for a tool unless I can use it for at least 2 or 3 things. Speaking of tools, I have a tool rack, and I love this thing because I travel with it, but it also keeps all my tools in order, so when I turn around and I want to gouge, I know what's in the middle. And I'm not looking through a bench full of junk. I have a bench full of junk like everything else. We talked about Penn State. I like Penn State in the heavy tools, the roughing gouges and things. The spindle gouge is a piece of fence wire with a groove in it. The reason this costs $15, and it's great to learn to sharpen. Don't get me wrong. You're going to learn this as good as any. And if you can sharpen this, you can cut with the best of them. If you're going to put any pressure on this, you're going to bend it. This one has been straightened a couple times. When you get into scrapers, there's a reason they don't use high-speed steel in carving tools. You can sharpen carbon steel tools sharper than you can high-speed steel. I use carbon steel scrapers. You sharpen this every 20 seconds. You let your grinder run, you just touch it, and you come back and use it for 20, 30 seconds and touch it again. But it's a much sharper tool. When I get on the inside of a hat that's turned green, the hat's turned fresh cut wood, and this is a 100-pound block of wood, the bark on it and everything else, and you turn it green. When you turn the top half of the hat, you put a tenon on it, turn that between centers, put a tenon on it, and then you grab it with a tenon. And you turn this, sand it, and finish it. And when you start turning on the inside, you've got to do that all the way through. At the outside, you could probably have lunch or something. But once you start going thin, you've got to do the whole thing where it's going to split in and out. Going through the top of this, I use a carbon steel scraper. And I know a lot of them use other things, but I'll tell you, carbon steel scraper is the sharpest tool I've ever run into, especially on green wood. Just sharpen it often. That one's been dropped many times, so you'll see right away. Today we're going to make kaleidoscopes. I'll show a couple other things. I make pens. I make all kinds of things. In fact, the other half of this, I have a poplar one that's really good. The other half of that, I made a pair of jockey shorts. And I thought that was really funny, but it ends up a hat's like 8 inches in diameter and 5 inches deep. Jockey shorts are 12 inches in diameter and 10 inches deep. And I'll tell you, I sweat blood on that thing. The measure was even worse. You caliper yourself front and back, and you get that pretty good. But the height, I couldn't get, so I didn't pull the shades in my shop. I had this level between my legs. I put marks on the wall, and as you look down, your behind goes up. So you don't realize it's big as a jockey shorts. So as you look down to see the bubble, I had lines all over the wall. A lot of people make pens and pencils. They're fun to make. My last 8 now have gone to China. I do the inlays, and when big companies entertain over there, they're supposed to bring fine gifts, and they want wood from North Carolina. So it works out really good. There's other stuff, if you look at it, this is a white one, there's a red one up there too. There's a green one too, but got lost somewhere. This is Environ. This is newspaper, soy flour, and dyes. It's one of these recycled products. And you can get this stuff wire on, you can look at Google it. I think it comes from Wisconsin. But it comes in sheets. You can get it, I don't know, ½ inch up to about 4 inches thick. And you can use it, turn it, and make like bases for trophies or plaques on the wall. It looks just like marble. You'd swear it's cut out of marble. But and it is newspaper. The first coat of finish goes right into it. I mean, it's to finish in the newspaper. Tonight we're going to do the kaleidoscopes, this sort of thing. I do some offset turning. My name's Duxbury, so I turn duck line stoppers. You wouldn't want to make a living doing this. Let's turn on 4 centers. That's a piece of koa. A lot of people turn pencils that way, so I turn mine this way. It really isn't too hard. On the base plate of a lathe, put a block of wood, and you turn half of a pencil. When you part it off, you've got a whole ring of half a pencil. You cut it in half and put the 2 halves together. So it really isn't that hard to do. The pencil box takes you a day. That's the part. If you ever don't make the pencil first. You can make that any size. Do it the other way around. I learned the hard way. You want me to pass that around? I'll pass the pen around too. You can get a look at what they look like. I also do a triangular end on there so it kind of fits your fingers. I'll start out with, I'm going to demonstrate at I just demonstrated at the North Carolina State Symposium last year, and I will be doing the one in Richmond. I don't know that you've ever been to symposiums. I know a lot of you are new. First off, the club, I never liked joining clubs, you know, it's another thing I never go to or whatever. The club's a great resource. If you want to buy a lathe, ask somebody. If you want to buy a tool, ask somebody. If you like the finish on this, and you don't like it on this, ask what that finish is. When you go in to buy finishes, there's 300 finishes there. You can spend the rest of your life mopping finishes on things that you didn't like. Find what you like and ask questions because it's a great resource. Tools, before you buy a tool or a chuck, ask, you know, some chucks, and people, it's like everything else, you know, some people like a Chevrolet and other people wouldn't have one given to us, but you got to take that into consideration. But you get an opinion or a bunch of opinions, and it'll save you a lot of time and effort. In doing this, made the kaleidoscopes, and I belong to both Raleigh and the Piedmont Woodturners in North Carolina. I used to belong to the ones in Ohio. I moved from Ohio 6 years ago, 5 years ago. I belonged to North Coast Woodturning and the Buckeye Woodturners up there. North Coast was club #1. And once I made a kaleidoscope, well then I started with this one, believe it or not. That's made out of shot smith. Shot smith is a piece of junk as far as a table saw. I wouldn't put a blade on it. But I'll tell you, it'll do things as a lathe you can't do on this one. So they have functions, you know, whatever. Once I got it done, the fellows in the club, well, one of them want to make it, so I'd be sketching things out and helping him. And pretty soon it ended up, I made so many sketches on napkins that I drew the thing. And then after that, people wanted them mailed out. So I ended up, believe it or not, I ended up drawing this whole thing, and it's all in, that's the assembly plan on the back. There's 2 big blueprints in here. But now I've got 4 sets. I just finished this. This one is the last one. But I finished 4 sets of those. And these original ones are all hand drawn. That's my drawing. Nobody likes hand drawings anymore, so I had to go back to college. I just graduated. I did AutoCAD, so all these are in AutoCAD now. There's no end to the fun you can have with this.
All 4 have the basic kaleidoscope blade in them too?
Yes, all 4 are different grades of kaleidoscopes.
Mm-hmm.
This one is the simple one. These are the handheld with the lights in it. That's the model. This is a big one. Now, I also ended up doing a DVD. Something else I got talked into. I'm the last guy who ought to be on camera, but Phil Pratt, who's the videographer for the AAW, did a demo or a video in my shop. And after he saw my work, he says, "You're the one who ought to be doing the video." He says, "We got to get you on tape." So anyway, a month later, and I don't know how much more money came around, I ended up doing this. And it's really made a believer out of me. If you watch me tonight turn a barrel of a kaleidoscope and you go home and turn it, put it on your lathe, you forget something. You can look on this and it's indexed. And you want to see cutting glass, you can look at cutting glass. You can look at it 6 times if you want, you know. And not just with this one, I'm saying that with any of the videos. They're great instructional tools. So use your library, and that's part of the club. You know, I think the club's been the other one. So use the thing. To start out with, I've got prototypes of kaleidoscopes. Kaleidoscope was invented in 1816 by Sir David Brewster. And you've got to remember, this is before light bulbs and before television. This was even before mirror. And in the old days, they had polished sheets of silver that they put in these. And they actually had to come apart and be repolished. But to hold something up and see these gorgeous images in it was just space age. You know, it's lost its pizzazz now, but in those days it was, you know, something you made for the queen or something. It was gorgeous. It consists of a set of object boxes. Did everybody get a handout? We've got handouts of the history and roughly what it takes to make this thing. You have object box, and then you have a tube with mirrors in it and a hole to see in the other end. The light comes down through the objects, goes down through the mirrors, and you see it reflected in the other end. The mirror is not mirror like you know of it, it's first surface mirror. The silver's on the top of the glass. If you use regular mirror, it makes a terrible kaleidoscope. You get a reflection off the surface of the glass and a reflection off the silver. And also you get the green of the glass. You're looking down the edge of the glass. So don't even try it. It's the most expensive part of this thing, and I'll show you what it is and how to do it. But I make a lighted model that actually has lights inside of it, because on a regular kaleidoscope, light is coming down through the objects and then going through the mirror. If you put a solid object in a regular kaleidoscope, it's like holding a quarter up to the sun. You just see a black disc. But if you light from the viewing side, then you can see a solid object. You can show coins in this, gears, shells, that sort of thing. This has coins in it. You can look at this later. Do you have a break in that? Or do you want one? No, maybe you want one. Okay. Anyway, this one, and that one have lights in it. Feel free to pick them up, look at them. I'll pass this around. You can see, like I say, it's a prototype. This is called a dry box. The objects just roll around in there. And I used to take this apart every few months and clean it. I couldn't figure out where that dust came from. It ends up, that's a natural grinder. An old-time rock grinder. Yeah, I can tell you where that dust comes from. I used to take it apart and clean each piece. But look at it, take it apart. That's a 3-mirror equilateral triangle. And that ends up probably the easiest one to make. And it also, since the eye hole has to be in the center of the mirrors, gives you the biggest eye hole. I like to use those on the ones that I sell, because people that pick it up, especially if they have bifocals, they want to look through here and see. They want they don't want a 1/4-inch hole here, 3/16 hole. You know, when you start getting to different mirror configurations, the closer the mirrors come together, the more images you'll get. So instead of being a 30-60 degree triangle, this one is a 60-30 degree triangle. And that brings it together more. You'll see way more images in it. This one is a prototype. You can look through this. Here again, see how small the eye hole has to be, because that has to be between the mirrors. This is going to have a clear glass on the end of it. This is called a kaleidoscope. You can use kaleidoscopes. You just put this on here. It's just protected. But look at your watch or something shiny. You can look at all kinds of things. You can walk around and look at flowers. It's gorgeous. They put them on the end of cameras. You can go nuts with it on the end of a camera. This object box has oil in it, so the objects float in oil. All mine float in oil. All of these object boxes. We'll actually make one of these. I'll show you how to make it. But that's what the objects are looking like inside. I'll pass this around too. This is a two-sided. When you have a three-sided mirror, you get all triangles. If you make one side a black side, dull black, it changes to a mandala or a star shape. And the closer the mirrors come together, the more points on the mandala. So if you look at this one, you open it wide open, it'd probably be about 6 points. And I think as you bring it together, you can go up to about 26 points. This is 2 mirrors and they're hinged. It takes 4 hands to do this, but it's a prototype. The end here, there's an arrow here. Have the arrow pointing up. And you turn this. As you turn this, you bring the mirrors together. And see, there again, as the mirrors come together, it gets way more images, and some people really like that. But as the mirror comes together, you have to have a small eye hole, because you have to be between those 2 mirrors. So you end up with this little eye hole. So it's not quite as user-friendly, but I'll pass this around. Turn this spring here to move the mirrors, and I'll put the objects on the end. Try not to drop this one. It's got away with it. When it gets dropped, every time I pass it around. One of the problems you have with making wooden kaleidoscopes is, with almost every kit you buy or plan you find, you'll see that it's a block of wood and they drill an 1.5-inch hole through it. And there's 2 things. It's almost impossible to do. And my theory is the more you spend for the block of wood, the more your chances of the drill coming through the side. So I never did like that. So I've gone to 3 pieces of wood glued together. They take 3 pieces of wood, 3/4 inch, miter them, and glue them together. Then when you turn the outside round, you have a triangular opening right down the center, and the mirrors just slide into it. It makes a gorgeous kaleidoscope. I've researched kaleidoscopes all the way back to Sir David Brewster, and I'll tell you, I think this is the best. When you end up, you can use 3/4 inch. You don't have to buy this great big block of gorgeous stock. The way you turn this, I used to put plywood ends on here and guess at the center. And I think this is on your handout, but I take a block of wood, I don't know, 3 by 3, maybe 4 inches long. Put it between centers and turn it round. And then stick it in the chuck stick it in the chuck, and bring your tailstock up. Cut down the middle to within about a ½ inch of the center with your parting tool. And then notice how deep that is. Go that far out from there and V both ways in to make a V. And then when you get all done, part it off. When you got it parted off, just move it open it up like this. It should be clamped in here. Now, you can turn all kinds of things with this. Like I say, I like things that work. And you're not spending a fortune to do it. You can turn any size and shape. That's just yellow glue. Once you start using cones to turn things, you'll do all kinds of things with it. This is 2 pieces of 2x6. I have a screw chuck at home. I screwed one onto the screw chuck, I jammed the other one next to it, brought the tailstock up, turned them around. I V'd this out. And then to make this birdhouse, this is stave construction. Just stuck one of those in each end, turned the thing around, finished it, sanded it, finished it, did the whole thing. When it comes off the lathe, you got it perfect round.
The inside is still triangle.
Yes. Well, it's octagon, it's 8 sides or something like this. But you can use it for all kinds of things. I like fun things that work. Excuse me. Before I go turn that, I'll show you something. This is no extra charge. To turn a spindle, I like to turn a spindle with this is the old tailstock center. Used to be able to buy these at Sears for $7. I don't know where. But anyway, you stick that in there. It's a number 2 Morse. If you put it, especially if you're learning, put anything you want on here, and if you get a catch, it'll slide on there rather than tear your arm. It's just a really nice thing to have. And once you get used to using this, you can back off on the tailstock and make a clutch. And when you're actually turning something that could break, you can back off on this so that you couldn't do it. If you're not cutting nice, it's going to lock up or slide on this. But I use this when I teach, and especially with women, they're afraid of the lathe, you know. You reach in and grab the thing and stop it, and they say, oh, gee, well, maybe I could try that. And they, away you go. But that's just worth its weight in gold as far as I'm concerned.
And that just self-centers in the number 2 slot, in the number 2
It's a Morse.
It's number 1.
No, it's a number 2 Morse taper.
Or that's a number 1 Morse?
No, this is number 2 Morse. These are number 2.
That's number 2, this is number 2.
That's number 2, yeah.
But it doesn't, oh, it just slips on here.
It slips on there, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So it's,
there's no ears on there to grab into the
Right.
wood.
Right.
If I had a block it, so.
No, that's fine, I understand.
Um,
It just makes me wow.
The other thing is sometimes when you're turning something, you'd like, I use a chuck quite a bit. But a lot of times you want to turn something and you don't have time to chuck it out and do whatever. If you just jam it in there, you can turn it. You don't have to have things locked up. If this was a finished piece and I wanted to turn it, use a golf ball. Put the golf ball in your chuck and drill it. I think it's 11/30 seconds or something. But drill it to just slip on here. That gives you a hard rubber end so that you're not going to skin this up if you want to turn it. And if that was a finished piece and I wanted to put a groove in the end of here, I could do that without marring it up. Well, it used to be full of rubber bands. I couldn't believe it. But these aren't, they don't use rubber bands anymore. You want to pass that around? I don't know what's in there, some kind of foam, nothing like it used to be.
Well,
Had to
that's
happen.
okay.
Had to happen.
Everybody does it at least once.
It hasn't leaked yet.
Yeah.
One way, well, there's a couple places make this. The thread on here is 3/4 10. The thread on the headstock is 1" 8. On most of the smaller lathes, it's 1" 8. If you get this adapter to go to 1" 8, now you can put a face plate on here. You can put anything that would fit on this end, fits on this end. And what I'm finding is a neat way to go with, in fact, I borrowed this fellow's chuck. This is his chuck. You can run, remember how much fun it was when you got your first chuck? When you get the second one and they both run together, you can have 4 times the fun. It's just no end to it. Now you're not turning under pressure. Now you can even turn under tension. You can, to make a box, you can stick a block of wood in here, grab it on both ends, turn it around, part it, hollow the bottom out, take this chuck off and put it on this side, and turn the top and do the whole thing, you know, I mean, it's just no end to the fun. These are like $30, $35, something like that. It's an adapter just from 3/4 10 to 1" 8. And I've used it for all kinds of things. If you're turning something that's thin, you've got to remember that there's mass out here. The chuck has mass. So you might want to slow your lathe down before you shut it off. But you can actually turn in tension so that you're not whipping this piece. It's really fun. The other thing I found is to cut these 3 pieces of wood, I use a table saw, just like one of these. And I used to set the angle. These are 60-degree angles. And to set the angle, I had a 30, 60, 90-degree triangle. I used to sit there and look at the shadow between the blade and whatever. Has everybody seen these things? If you haven't seen it, you haven't lived, but you had. You use this on everything. It's just everything. It's a digital angle gauge. You push the button to turn it on. You set it on the bed of your table saw. You press this button, and that zeroes it. You take this off then, and you stick it on the side of your blade, and you turn it to within 1/10 of a degree of where you want to go. I don't even check these anymore. I take them out, put glue on them, clamp them up. It's like machine. Put it on your bandsaw blade and zero it, set it on the bandsaw table, and put it to anything you want. The bandsaw, you know, the vernier on that's not good to the near 5 degrees. Stamp. Use it on your sander. You even set your crosscut gauge. Does he have a crosscut gauge here? On the table saw? Is there a crosscut gauge? Anyway, you set a crosscut gauge on the table saw. You set this on the table and you zero it. Then you set the crosscut gauge with the tang hanging down. Stick this on the tang and set it to any degree you want within 1/10 of a degree. I don't even know this company, but I sold more of them than they have. I even put it on my DVD. It's just invaluable.
What's the company name?
Wixie.com. I can pass it around. Yeah, turn it on. I see he's got one here too. You just, once you've had one, you can't live without it. I'll tell you, it just adds precision to everything you do.
Beal also.
Beal has one too, yeah. Beal's is good to the 100th of a degree, but only accurate to the degree. So I don't know. I haven't used Beal's. And I've heard also Beal's is it can be used as a level. You can just turn it so it reads out middle level. So maybe that's a better one. I don't know. I'll tell you, I've used this thing for all kinds of things. Like I said, I like things that work, and you can have so many tools, you go nuts. Half of them work, half of them don't. One of the beauties of a club is you can learn all of this real quick. There's so much stuff out there that may work. I ended up having one accident 10 years ago. I ran a wood jointer when I was 9 years old, and at 59 I cut the end off my finger. And after that, you know, I've always been pretty safe, but I wasn't doing anything unsafe. I ran a piece through there like 4 times. The 5th time it grabbed, and instead of kicking out, it dug in, went right under. It just can happen. So these are 15 bucks. You know, protects your whole face, especially when you're using glues and CA glue and that sort of thing. I just think it's well worth doing. We're gonna turn this around. Quit talking here. Get some stuff. You allowed to make it up? I usually have these things up first. This wood is lifted. This is lifted and yellow heart. Lift this is the new wood. Yeah. This pink wood, that's Leptis. That's a new hybrid wood that's Weyerhaeuser's come out with it. It's eucalyptus, red oak, and cherry. It grows like eucalyptus. A 40-year-old hardwood tree will grow in 11 years. And eucalyptus grows straight up with all the limbs out the top. So there's no knots in the trunk of the tree. It's all good wood. And when you cut the tree off, the stump regrows. So they're not even sure what happens next. But I don't think they are. Anyway, it's a pretty hard wood. If you see large amounts of it, it almost looks like plastic. It's uneventful. There's no grain changes. You can see a huge table made out of it. It looks like it could be Formica or something. There's no change. When I look through that kaleidoscope, if you look through there, the end is prism. So look through, turn the end, and kind of pan around the room. With most kaleidoscopes, the end is opaque and it just gets lighter or darker. That's prism. That's a light fixture lens. I'll show that later. But it brings the lighting into the objects differently. When you turn a cylinder, get the tool in your side, you get yourself set in front of the lathe. So when you get down here, you don't have to change your feet. You know, if you're going to turn a cylinder, you have to be able to hit both sides. Do one shot. The carbon steel down. One of the finest tools downstairs made. I do use plans. In each set of plans, you get a full-size drawing. This is one of my old drawings. This was hand-done, but it's full-size and to scale. So you can either set it. This is another tool. I don't know that you use these or not, but if you haven't used these, you ought to at least know what they do. This is an OD. When you set something, if you want to know the OD of this, you set this. That's the OD of this tool. This is the ID. And this is the length of it, exactly. I'll show you how I'm going to use this. You make antennas and things, it's just invaluable. I use this for all kinds of things. This is my second or third one. We're 2 3/4 right now. I got to come down. I want to make this about 2.5 inches. If he was around, I'd ask him if I could fix his tool rust, but the neatest way to resurface a tool rust is run it across one of those bands, a belt sander. Just hold it on a belt sander and let it sand the top of that. Clean it right off. I'm glad I talked to the owner of this place because he said, when you get to the end of the road, just keep going, and then when you get to the end of that, just keep going. So when we started coming down the road, he had me a little worried, to admit. Don't know whether I would have come all the way or not. Lord, was nice. I did a new addition on my own shop, and oh Lord, what a mess. It's pretty close. We're going to sand it next. Once you get it turned around, then you sand it. And to sand it, I use the Miracle Cylinder Maker. When you're doing a dozen of these, you don't have time to force around with a little piece of sandpaper. So I found you might as well get into this and do it right. When I'm doing it, I do wear a respirator. I ended up inventing this. I'm a diver. Filters are on the back. They're HEPA filters. You open it up, put it around your head. The air's coming in here now and going out here. The thing that makes this work, I have 2 U.S. patents on this. You'll love this. One of the reasons I don't use those is because when you put something over your nose, you lose the vision out of the bottom of your glasses. To run a router, I can't even see the router cutter when I got a respirator on. And to do it with a face shield on is even worse. You get $300 for a power face shield with all the batteries and junk. This is a better filter. This is 49 and this is 20. That's less than their battery. If you can't remember to breathe through your mouth alone, I have a nose clip. You just put it on your nose, bend it to just close your nose. In a down position, move this around till it's out of the way, and pinch that bead tight on the tube. If it was a string, you hang across your mouth. Also doesn't run for 4 hours like theirs and whatever else. This is a much better respirator. That is a surgical mask. A surgical mask is not a respirator. A surgical mask is a spatter guard to stop the blood or any kind of spatters from a person getting to your lips or your nose. And it's not a respirator. It can't do any harm, but don't depend on it. This is a respirator. When you put this in your mouth, the mouthpiece goes in front of your teeth. And that's my patent. This is counterbalanced. There's no weight on your face. It goes in front of your teeth. You cannot swallow with anything between your teeth. You can't swallow with your mouth open. I'll pass one around. I got these. Do we have enough? Yeah, I got enough. 'Cause I made it for myself out of PVC tubing. I got it all done and my friends wanted them. I was out on the charcoal grill bending PVC tubing. Making valves out of inner tube.
I made a seat valve out of a vacuum cleaner motor, and I just used it.
Okay, yeah. Well, a lot of people use surgical masks, and I submitted this for surgical type, and well, they told me right away that there's two different worlds. One is a spatter guard. In fact, with viruses, you can even get viruses through your eyes, but and in those cases, they wear a face shield, bone surgery, and that sort of thing.
You say you cut those at 50 degrees.
60 degrees.
How many?
60 degrees. Other thing is, when you wear a respirator, don't turn the machine off and take the respirator off. That's what I just did. That's when all the dust is in the air. That's when you need the respirator. Wear it till the dust clears. That just takes some of the fight out of it. Then you sand it by hand, you know, like you always do. Get things cleaned up.